Hello, editing Olivia here. First thing in the video, but apparently I didn't put my microphone all the way into the jack, whatever the it's called. I just didn't put it all the way in to the camera. So it's using just the camera microphone, so you'll be hearing a lot of those clickings that I fucking hate. And I'm gonna try to edit them out as best I can, but I'm not gonna go back and refilm this for a third time. Sorry, but on with the video. This is a question that I get all the time. And if you don't want to watch the whole video, the short answer is probably not. You're probably not reading tarot wrong. But if you want techniques or tips or just a little bit more of an insight on tarot, then keep watching because I'll be talking about how to use spreads if you want to use them, how to shuffle, how to choose a card, how to cleanse, how to store your tarot cards, and all of that jazz. So if those are things that you are curious about, then just keep watching. So let's dive straight into it. Grab yourself something to drink as per usual with my videos. If you're new, that's what we do here. This one is new me. It's matcha toasted rice. So that is what we are drinking today. Okay, so I'm gonna try to just get this through. So brief history, very brief history. The first documentation of tarot was in like the early, I don't know, sometime in the 1400s in Europe. It was originally used as a game, like playing cards, but it wasn't until the 1700s that it was popularized by some man whose name I'm gonna probably put on the screen somewhere because I cannot remember. He was an occultist and he was the one that popularized the use of tarot in divination and in the occult. So when we think of tarot, a very specific art style and very specific images pop up into our heads. The art that comes to mind now is probably the Rider-Waite Tarot. And the artist, her name was Pamela Coleman Smith. Yes, Pamela Coleman Smith. So if you want to know more about her, I'll leave a link down below if you're curious. So there's your very rough, very brief history of tarot, because we're talking more about how to use it and just all the kinks that you kind of run into that some people end up getting kind of stumped on. So let's get into that. I asked you on Instagram what kind of things confused you either as a beginner using tarot or even now using tarot. A lot of these questions came up multiple times, and I'm going to go through the ones that I saw the most. Basically, if you start reading tarot and you start researching it and asking people, you'll get a lot of opinions that are stated as fact. And at the end of the day, like most of this stuff, it's not like that. One of the biggest ones is, do I have to be gifted my first tarot deck? And no, you don't. I'm not actually sure where that came from, where that superstition came from, but I bought my own first tarot deck and I personally just don't really understand that idea or that superstition really at all. So if you feel like it's really important that somebody gifts it to you, then you can stand by that. But it is not a thing where you cannot read tarot or you cannot have a tarot deck unless it's gifted to you. That's just annoying. I bought my first tarot deck and I personally think that if you don't connect with the deck itself and connect with the art or just like the deck, then it's going to be really hard for you to want to use it and want to practice with it. And you're just not going to enjoy reading tarot. So if somebody gifts you something and it's not your style at all, your vibe at all, then you're not going to use it. So that just doesn't really make any sense to me. What is the difference between tarot and oracle? This one actually confused me for a while when I first started because I just didn't get it. And I think I wanted more of a complex answer than it actually is. So the reality is tarot has 78 cards. That's probably right. 78 cards. Those are all the same. So if you have tarot decks of different art styles, different artists, they are all still the same cards. You still have the major arcana and the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles or coins or whatever. So they might be named something slightly different, but all the cards are there. It's 78 cards and you have each one of each suit and all of the major arcanas. Whereas oracle deck, it's up to the artist. So if the artist feels like they want to do only different kinds of butterflies and moths, you're not going to have the high priestess, the moon, the 10 of swords, the 3 of pentacles. You're not going to have those in an oracle deck. You're only going to have whatever the artist decides. And they are way more up for interpretation. Most Oracle decks, if not all Oracle decks, are themed. So I have this Oracle deck that is all based on plants and the symbolism that those plants hold. You would read it either intuitively, depending on what it means to you, or you can use the book that was provided by the artist. So that's the difference between Oracle and Tarot. Tarot, I suppose, is more structured and Oracle is more intuitive. Either way, both are great. And then another question I got with that was, can you read Tarot and Oracle together? And I think yes, why not? A written rule that says that you can't, and if there is, then I haven't been listening to it and I probably will continue to ignore it. The next question is, how often and how do you cleanse your deck? It depends, and you'll hear me say this over and over, is it just depends. You're gonna get so sick of me saying this of it just depends, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, there, like I said, there's not really a rule book, and if you find one, if there is a rule book, they're more like guidelines. There are multiple different ways to cleanse. I see a lot of readers knock on their deck 3 times, a couple times, however many times they feel like. You'll see some readers blow on their deck, and I personally like to smoke cleanse my deck. I've seen and read things where people say like wrap your tarot in like a bag or something and then like bury it. That sounds like too much work, and I'm not gonna do that. And also I'm not gonna risk putting my deck in the ground. And I mean, hey, if you, like I said, if you feel like that's important to you, then by all means, but that stresses me out. So I'm not gonna do that. There's other ways as well. If you have your deck in a bag, some people have sprinkled like salt and rosemary in their bag, or they keep specific cleansing crystals with them. But I personally just like to smoke cleanse and be done with it. How often? Again, that's up to you. Some people like to cleanse before and after every single reading. Some people just cleanse whenever they feel like it, and some people cleanse when they feel like their cards are kind of just all over the place and are not giving clear readings. And the more that you work with your deck, the more you're going to kind of just understand when you feel like it's going to need cleansing. How do I shuffle? Guess what I'm going to say. Just take a wild guess. It depends. It's up to you. I personally like to shuffle where I pull the back of the deck or the bottom of the deck up and then shuffle forward, and I just kind of like shuffle it in this circular motion, I guess. Other people like to fold and do the bridge. Some people hate that other people do that with their decks, and I've seen people just kind of spread out their decks into a pile of just a big pile and then kind of regather all of the cards. I've seen people break up their decks into 3 different piles and then shift them around. And if you read reversals, which we will get to, they will split their deck into 3 different piles and then turn one upside down and then put them all back together. So again, it's totally up to however you feel you want to shuffle. Do you have to read reversals? No, you don't. And other readers will tell you otherwise. Don't listen to them. Really doesn't matter. And as long as you have a clear understanding of that. Whereas again, I'm kind of in the middle, me personally, where I prefer not to read reversals, but if one falls reversed or if one comes out of my deck reversed for some reason, because I make sure that all of my cards are upright and I feel like this was meant to be reversed, which isn't often, I'll read it reversed. But for the most part, I read upright. I don't really like reversals. Some people will go back and forth of reading no reversals, yes reversals, no reversals, yes reversals. Short answer, no, you don't have to if you don't want to. Next question is, how do you get into a good headspace to read? I find that a lot of people who just start into tarot feel like they need to be in this very mystical mindset in order to pull any cards, when I don't really think so. And again, it just depends on the person. Maybe you just cannot read tarot if you're not in a specific mindset. I do have days that I feel a little more in tune than others, but I don't feel like I need to set the mood and light an incense and meditate for like 10-15 minutes and speak to my deck or whatever. I will literally just pick up my deck, I'll cleanse it a little bit, focus on my question, and pull a card. I don't really need to be in a specific headspace. I think the most important piece is really focusing on what your question is. And we'll get to questions a little later in this video as well. But focus on what your question is, and that should get you in the headspace, because then you're going to be reading it and interpreting your spread a lot clearer. Focusing on that question, having a very clear question in your head is probably the best way to do it. if you want to be in this like mystical mindset, there are ways where you can train yourself specifically with scent. So if you light a specific candle or if you light a specific incense that you only use when you read tarot or when you're doing divination, that can kind of start to get you on that path of being able to switch just from mundane into magical quite quickly. But that'll take a little bit of time for your brain to kind of get trained to know that that scent means that. But up to you. Okay. How to build a relationship with your deck. Again, this is one of those weird things that when you read books, sometimes when I read books, especially beginner books, and they talk about how to acquire a tarot deck, how to bond with your tarot deck, and how to store your tarot deck, I can't help but think, do these people actually do these things? Because if you do, fine. But like I said, I wouldn't bury my tarot deck. Maybe if it was like super specific, like I'm dedicating this tarot deck to earth spirits and I'm wanting to consecrate, like it has to be so specific. I'm not because I have a lot of tarot decks. The amount of times that I would have to bury a tarot deck, and then I would forget about it. It's just some of the things that I read about is what I'm trying to get at, is I don't know if these people actually do these things. So bonding with your tarot deck, just use it. That's the advice from me. Many people suggest to bring it everywhere you go. Many people suggest to sleep with it under your pillow. Keep it on your person all the time was one that I read. And it's like, how do you do that? And then also, like, if I'm going to a bar, I don't want to bring it to the bar and like get it sticky. And I don't know. It's just like, what if you're at work or like working out? I'm not going to hold my tarot deck like in my pockets, or I don't know. That just like sounds strange and a little far-fetched, but you do you. Building a relationship with your deck, just use it. That is my advice. If you feel like you want to put it on your pillow, if you do dream work, something of that sort, then by all means. But for the most part, just using it, just actually spending time with it and getting to know it. And eventually, the more you use it, the better you're going to get, as with all things, the more you practice, and the better you're going to understand the art, because certain decks will have different personalities of sort. That sounds strange, but when you start reading and you get different decks, you'll understand. Some of them are meaner than others, but they have different personalities, so you can use them for different things. And that's why it is a little bit more important to know your deck personally. And further, some decks people feel that are really personal decks and they don't want to do readings for other people, so they have a separate deck to do readings for other people, whereas others, they do both. It's up to you and what you feel like the deck is meant to be used for. Let's talk a little bit about deck personality. For those of you who are new to my channel, I am an animist, so I do feel that the decks have their own personality, and I don't mean that they are sentient beings, but I do feel that they have a very specific energy. So they emit a specific energy and they emit specific answers. Well, they emit answers in a different tone. So if I ask the same question to two different decks, I get relatively the same answer, but one is probably going to be a lot nicer than the other. So when you have multiple decks, if you ever choose to, you'll see that they definitely have different energies to each one. This will also dictate whether you read for only yourself, as I said previously, or for other people, or if you work with any sort of deities or spirits or your ancestors. Some people do dedicate specific decks to working with their ancestors or working with their deities or working with a specific spirit. Okay, so now I think I'm going to show you a couple of example spreads, because a lot of people have questions on spreads. So let's do an example reading. If you want to use a spread, I think spreads are best when you're trying to figure out and trying to practice how to correlate all of the cards together in order to make a reading that makes sense. So let's say, people always ask about the relationships. Instead of saying, is this the person that I'm gonna marry, or are we gonna break up, or whatever, like I said, you want to ask something that is going to be actionable. So
let's do current situation in the relationship, current obstacles or challenges, and an advice card. That's a really good way to figure out kind of how to put these things together. So current situation, so you would say, what is my current situation in my relationship? What is my current situation in my relationship? That one kind of. So we'll say Queen of Wands. And then this one would be challenges or obstacles. So what are the current obstacles or challenges in my relationship? Is what you would be asking. And then I like to shuffle until one falls out. You can, spread them out and pick a card if you want to. Oh, Lord. Let's just go with that one. Okay, there you go. Five of Pentacles. So then an advice card. What is something that I can do to overcome these challenges or better my relationship? Or there we go. Okay, so my current situation, this is Queen of Wands, right? So somebody who's very stable within themselves and very confident and knows what they want. And then this is the obstacles. So this is Five of Pentacles. So I would the first thing that comes to mind is like money. So maybe there's like money situations that go through the relationship in not so good of a way. And then we have Nine of Wands. And Nine of Wands is, the first thing that I think of is like resilience, right? Of like the battle isn't quite over yet. You're still kind of getting hit on. You're still not hit on, but like you're still kind of getting pummeled a little bit and you're still needing to hold your ground. So I would put all of these together, maybe saying that maybe you're being a little too stingy with the money, or you're trying to be a little too controlling. Like you do know what you want and you want to really establish yourself, but you're almost like withholding, whether it's your own money or like I don't know, like what John Doe's situation is, but you're withholding this and then in turn making issues with money. So I would say somebody's probably being stingy with it, still in like a lack mindset. So they're withholding things. They're being very stingy. Maybe the other person wants to go out on a trip or something, and John Doe is still in that lack mindset saying, no, we need to save money. And that's like causing tension between their relationship. So that's a very random and basic way that I would read. And that would help with the 3 cards to figure out how to put things together kind of that makes more sense to your situation. So that would be an example reading. Or if you want to do something more free form, then let's say, you just got a new job and you want to know what it's going to look like. And it's a job in like a career that you really like. So I'm literally just pulling cards. I don't have a spread. Each card doesn't mean anything yet to me. I'm just pulling random cards. Just see this one flipped out, just pulling random cards. And then I can pull as many as I want. There we go. Okay, so say I'm asking about a career. I just got an entry-level job in the career setting that I really want, and I put these all together. Now, this is where it kind of comes in, where you just use your own intuition. So if you feel like these two to go together, or if you feel like these kind of sandwich these two, you really have to use that intuition and just figure out what feels right to you. And this is going to take practice. Just practice, okay? So Wheel of Fortune, I would say that, okay, like this looks really good so far, right? We've got Wheel of Fortune, King of Pentacles, and we have the 8 of Pentacles, but then we have the 8 of Swords. So all of these things I would say looks really good. I'd say, okay, good. I'm in a place that I think I really want to be, and this is kind of like things are coming to a completion. Things are really working out the way that I really want them to work out. Then I have King of Pentacles, meaning I probably have a very good mentor within my grasp now that I'm in this career situation, being that it's right next to this, it's going to be in a position of an apprentice. I'm going to be learning things. I'm going to be doing hands-on things of figuring out how to better myself and become more skillful in this career. However, with this 8, that's not 8, Jesus. The 6 of Swords, my bad. With this 6 of Swords, I, in this career, would need to leave something behind. So maybe I'm leaving behind coworkers that I'm going to really miss, or maybe I have to move for this career. That's going to really suck, and I'm really going to have to just let that go emotionally and going to have to understand that it's just time to move on and really emotionally sit with that and deal with that. But that is kind of how I would do a more intuitive reading. Personally, when it comes to oracle cards, let's get this one. This is the Hedge Witch's Field Guide oracle cards. I think this was in one of the Witch's box. Most of these are from the Witch's box. What is something that I need to focus on right now? What's the thing that needs my attention most right now? Right? Because it's something that's actionable. What's the thing that I need attention most on right now? And the questions don't really change if I ask for oracle or for tarot. I don't like the holes. I'm sure if you've seen that last Witch's box video, I don't like clusters of holes. Anyway, so what's something I should, okay, here. And I kind of felt this one come out, so I'm just gonna pull that one anyway. All right, so we have regenerate, we have resourcefulness, soothe, and magic. And I feel like this is pretty accurate actually for my current situation. So we'll do a reading for me. Something I need to focus on right now for me personally. I do want to be focusing a lot more on my magic stuff and my craft. And so that's good. Soothing and resourcefulness and regenerate. So I think these two, of course, go together, being that I need to just slow the fuck down. And I need to take my time to, you know, regenerate, reaccumulate energy and all that jazz for myself, and be resourceful and use the things that I want to use, the things that I have right now, use the access to knowledge and to mentors and to people and to, I mean, anything that I am able to use at the moment to actually use it and be creative with how I have those resources and be resourceful and adapt. So I think these are great. So again, it's very intuitive. It's hard to do because I think a lot of us want a structure. We want something to be like, okay, tell me how to do this, right? But in reality, it's a lot of just trusting yourself. And we grow up being taught not to trust ourselves. So this is a really good way to relearn to trust ourselves, to do that.
All right, so now that we did the example spreads, I have this question: how do you interpret negative readings? And I think this is an interesting question because for the most part, especially online, especially with how the witchy and the occult and the practitioner community has grown, a lot of us don't want to look at the negative, which is, it's inevitable. You cannot escape it. So read it as negative. When you ask a question or when you ask someone for advice, you get an answer, especially if it's an honest answer, you'll get an answer that you don't want to hear. And maybe you already knew it. You already knew the answer. You already knew that you should be doing the thing that you don't want to do, or maybe you should be not doing the thing that you are already doing. But at the end of the day, it's just going to give you an answer. So if you ask about your relationship, show me an overview of my current relationship because we're kind of going through a rough patch, right? And like, show me an overview of my current relationship and if I should, and what happens if I stay with them. And, you know, you pull the 10 of swords, the 9 of swords, and the tower. It's probably not a good thing that you're staying with this person. And deep down, you probably know that, but it's just putting it in your face. And there's no way to really twist this and say, oh, well, you're just really anxious about it. And, you know, maybe you'll do a little internal work. No, you clearly have a lot of turmoil internally. Overview of your relationship is, and if you stay with them, is probably not going to have a good outcome. Do you want to hear that? No. But did you need to hear it? Probably. And negative readings are a part of life because life is not sugar and honey. I would suggest, if you get a reading like that, if you have not already, ask a follow-up question that is actionable. Because the next very frequent question is, how do you phrase your questions? Phrasing your questions is so important because it gives you a better, first of all, it gives you a better intention of why you're doing a reading and what you want out of it. Okay, so for example, using the past example, and you ask the tarot, what is the outcome of my current relationship? I mean, it'll tell you, what are you going to do with that information? So personally, I find a lot more success in using the tarot as an advice mechanism rather than a future telling. So instead of, what is the outcome if I stay with this person? Get to the root of it. What are the obstacles within my current relationship and what can I do about it? Or you can just start pulling cards with the question in your head of, what are the obstacles in my current relationship? Because if you know the obstacles, then most likely you'll be able to pinpoint how to fix those or how to get past those, right? If you are familiar with me and my channel, then you know that I am an advocate for documenting pretty much everything, hence the YouTube channel, but also documenting everything within your practice. So when you are doing any new spells or rituals, if you're studying something and divination, I am a huge advocate for documenting everything. And I always tell you to write it down. So tarot, it depends on how often you do it, right? I like to do divination fairly often, if not once a day. Will I write all of those down? Probably not. I know, blasphemy, I know. But the reason I don't write all of them down is because most of them are not these deep, inquisitive questions that I have. It's just general outlook for today. And unless I have this like big thing that's happening or a solid feeling of something, I usually won't write it down because at the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. The times that I will write them down is if I'm doing a 6-month general reading, if I am doing, especially if I'm doing readings before and after spell work, and readings on just bigger picture things. So things that are, what is this week going to be like? How will this trip go? Maybe I'll take a photo of it. If I'm like, oh, how is this trip going to go for me? How is this trip out of town or out of the country? And I'll take a photo of it and see if it came true or see if it was accurate in any way. But most of the time, I'm not going to take the effort to really write it down unless I feel like it's worth documenting, if that makes sense. So no, you don't have to log every single reading, but I would suggest that you log the very big ones, the ones on spell work and the ones on really big picture type of questions. So the last question that I have here is, how do you store your tarot deck? Of course, these are our magical tools and these are a big part of our spiritual practice. So you want to store them in a respectful way. And I think some people will go above and beyond. And again, it's up to you. And I personally feel like each deck kind of has its own preference in a way. Some of them are in their original boxes. Some of them aren't bound by anything and are just kind of like loose decks in a box. Some of them are wrapped in, I have a DIY tarot mat thing that you can look up here that are wrapped in those. Some of them are in bags, like tarot bags that people have gifted me. I have had people be very upset that I don't store my tarot decks in pure silk because it protects it from negative energy, blah, 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 blah. If that is how you feel, then find a pure silk bag and protect your deck. But I don't think my decks really need protection from anything. If I feel like anything is kind of clinging to it or it doesn't, if it has like musky energy, I'll just cleanse it. I don't really have any big worry or issues with my tarot decks. Whereas others prefer to be loose on my working altar or loose on the other altars that I use to communicate with any spirits or my ancestors that I work with. But otherwise, I just store them how you want to store them. As long as they aren't getting spilled on or bent or dirty, you're fine. Just store them how you want to store them and store them how you feel like they are content with being stored. So that is kind of the overview, the 101 on tarot. I hope that I answered a few of your questions because I know that when I first started, a lot of these really confused me as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And as always, best of luck, be kind to each other, and may your gods treat you as you've treated others. Bye.